Beyond the Wild. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Wild podcast. Thanks for tuning in this week. This is a part 2 of a great conversation we're having with guest Nick White. Unfortunately, Ron isn't on. His wit and humor will be missed this episode, but we're just piggybacking on the last one and running on to some great new subjects to share with Nick. And guys, I'd say, how's your day going? But we just stopped the last podcast and at duration and started another one. So I hope your night is going great.
Going
Jason?
well.
Mine's going amazing because we're doing this, and I really enjoy doing this, and it's been really fun getting to know Nick a little bit more. I'm excited to have this part 2 and dig in deeper to some of his experiences and stories. I feel like we could probably do a whole series of episodes with Nick and his stories. So
I appreciate that. It's been fun.
My fire has gone out. I didn't run between recordings and throw another log on it.
Well, this is a cheater fire. This is a propane one.
I was watching it to a degree, and I'm like, the flames are pretty uniform.
Yeah, there's no coals.
that log has not changed an inch.
Right on. Well, it's throwing heat, and it looks great. So last episode, we talked a lot about Scotland and Nick's 3 years there. Very colorful years as far as time on the sea and land and species that he learned to love there. And he's returned back to North America, to here in Canada in Southern Ontario, and has some really interesting projects going on. But before we get into those, we were just chatting about something before we hit record. That was an interesting subject. It does spark conversation amongst nature and wildlife photographers. So Nick, you were saying something about part of the strategy in the UK. It's just the approach that they've adopted there as a common approach to wildlife photography is...
Yeah, so a big, always a hot button issue in wildlife photography is ethics, isn't it? We hear about it more and more, and it's an important part. So one thing that sort of surprised me, or didn't surprise me, but it was interesting about the UK and wildlife photography culture there is quite a heavy culture of rented baited hides. So essentially the format is someone has a structure set up. They've got, whether it's perches or different logs set up or a pond perhaps, a setup like many people here would have at their house for say photographing songbirds or something. But they'd have these for kingfishers or for tawny owls or barn owls, or hawks, different raptors. And then they put out food for them. And essentially you book to go to these hides and sit down and photograph these animals when they come to eat the food that has been put out for them. And this is a practice that I think in North America would be pretty opposed generally, I would say, by most or all wildlife photographers. Mm-hmm. But there, it's very baked into the wildlife photography culture. Not to say that everybody's for it, because there are many who oppose. But I would say the lion's share, that's very much a common practice. And for many wildlife photographers, that is wildlife photography for them. Like they book these different hides all over the country, and they get to see these amazing animals up close and personal. The what you get to see and what you get to photograph, it is amazing. But it brings up the question of what is wildlife, and where's the line drawn between domestication and ethically. Is it okay to be sort of getting these animals accustomed to being fed consistently, and is that deterring them from practicing their own food getting practices? And I'll be honest, I tried one once when I first got there. I thought, oh, this is cool. That's something I'd like to photograph. But it did leave me feeling a bit gross, you know, because it's you get the same image as everyone else gets because it's the same perch and it's the same animal. And if that animal is coming back and being fed every day, what's different from it and your outdoor house cat? You know, like,
oh, don't say outdoor cats. That's a whole other.
Right. Yeah, that's another ethical thing too.
If Kelly was here, she would have just run in the screen and said no to outdoor cats.
Right.
Yeah. But I
think it's worth a conversation on like what is wildlife photography, and outside of the ethics. I think as wildlife photographers, we strive to always be bettering ourselves, looking at different light, different behavior, different composition, unique experiences, unique images, all these things that sets our images apart, and different ways that we can better ourselves. Like I think we all have a drive to be better.
Makes us individuals, right? We all have our individual portfolios because
absolutely. And the outside of the ethical part, I think as photographers who want to be great and want unique images and unique experiences, that is just not the way to do it, you know? So it really stagnates growth as well. And there's the accessibility argument, which is valid. Not everyone can go tromping through the woods to look for something, or standing in a river waiting for a kingfisher. But I think it's worth having a conversation about what is wildlife photography and what it's about. And like all the other ethical arguments, what are we subjecting these animals to in pursuit of frankly an easy image, you know, because you're not doing anything. You're pressing the shutter. So it makes me thankful that hasn't been adopted as widely here, because I just don't think it's good for wildlife photography culture and community, and for young people coming into the hobby. It's just not a good way to be introduced, or because it's all about being out there and experiencing the raw parts of wildlife that are so wild, you know, and what that is none of that.
Right.
So yeah, just we were talking about that before, and just touching on that because it's interesting to think about and talk about, and I think it's worth addressing.
Important forum of discussion, and this is a great opportunity for those of you watching on YouTube. Please leave us a comment. Where do you stand on this? What are your thoughts on it? And it's a different culture in areas, right? That there's all kinds of things that humans do differently in different parts of this planet that we as North Americans don't see eye to eye with. And I won't get into various things, but it's just lifestyles and practices, and not all of it's agreeable to us. But the hides, I mean, that's a popular opportunity in places like Finland. I'm curious Nick, which side do you lean on here? I'm just kidding. Uh,
Didn't make it clear enough.
but yeah, no, I am personally, as far as photographing, very much against baiting owls. Here's a hot button subject in the winter coming up. There's a flurry, uh, pun intended, on social media right now about some of that that's happening, and even you coined something on a previous conversation that we had, Nick, before podcast day about, I always thought that people who put rodents out for owls let them go, but I didn't know about the mouse in a jar thing. That was a new thing, where it's just a tease. Anyway, all of that and we all have personal opinions about so much in life, right? But yeah, the baiting for the sake of photos, especially with owls, and during seasons of challenge for food, or to the level of habituation that can threaten an animal's natural routine, are a solid no from me. But it's interesting to think about these hides, and because it's the way they're developed, how do people feel about somebody who, like Nick said, can't get out there physically? Or what is if it's their first introduction to this species, but then sparks, a life of passion of photographing and conservation action because they learned to love this species from that initial experience. It's not like going to the zoo, and this is another subject. Zoos. I know I'm going way off on one extreme here. Animals are captive, and I'm not talking about photography in this case. I'm talking about introduction to caring about planet Earth's natural history, natural species, plants, animals, birds, everything. Zoos are an important introduction to that. So, case in point, the Toronto Zoo is a big deal in Canada as far as what it offers in space and size. And on a good day, they have 14,000 people go through there that otherwise might not care about wildlife. And if their education material, which is top notch, and introduces people in a proper way to the species so that they care about those species, and there's calls to action right there. And that's something now about social media. You can click on a QR code and all of a sudden have direct connection to conservation organizations, donation opportunities, learning more about a species in its natural ecosystem, which is where we all want to see them. What can be done to help, because that's critical right now with human population across this planet. Not to get really profoundly heavy here, but it's an opportunity where a lot of people in large urban centers, 5-6 million people in the greater Toronto area, some have never seen cows their whole life, right? To see a giraffe and all of a sudden care about, well, there's this diversity of animal life on this planet, and spark that interest. There's a strong argument of that being an important introduction. It used to be television, right? It used to be this, and still, Planet Earth, an amazing series, natural history series, will do that, but it's still different than real in person, right? So it's something, I know I'm out there, and it's cause for discussion, and I think something we all could remind ourselves is it's good to have discussions. We learn by having discussions with one another, especially when we're not all on the same page. We share information, we learn from one another, and can bring something together and be a more well-rounded thought process and educated to perceive and move forward. So, discussions, even though some people, it's hot button subjects, it's important to be able to communicate and not have it, affect friendships. There's so many things. We're all different, but we all have this passion. And fundamentally, I would wager all of you listening out there care so much about nature and wildlife and birds and sea life and mammals, right? We're all there, and there's organizations that we all belong to that support these causes. But community and discussions around the community are really important. And that's way deeper than the hide talk as far as the blind. But, so that's one thing. Be an introduction. Yeah. Sorry, Jason.
No, don't be sorry at all. I think you said a lot of those things the same way I feel about it. And the only thing I might add is I think it naturally goes there, right? To your point, Mark, you start with the hide conversation or the baiting conversation, and it kind of goes down that path to zoos and what's right and wrong. And is there a right and a wrong? I think sometimes I try to hold judgment on some of those things and have my own experiences and try to let others, have their experiences and not try to be so judgmental of others in the way they approach things, even though I may not agree with it. Right. But I'm a lot like Nick. I've had my own experience. I talked about it before. I went to a game farm before because I wanted to see what it was about for myself. I was holding judgment and I wanted to see what it was about for myself. And it's not for me. I agree. I don't like it. I don't ever share those images. They're there. They don't mean as much to me. It was, something that was done under captive conditions, and I am definitely about wildlife. And wildlife to me is, animals in the wild, behaving wildly. And that, so anything that I am doing or somebody's doing to affect their behavior, and it means that it's no longer wild. And that's my definition of it. So, but I'm not also going to judge those folks in Scotland and the UK that are doing that, or in Finland. It's part of their culture. The other thing that made me think about is over there in Scotland and Finland, I'm not sure how much quote unquote public land they have. The fact that the public doesn't own the wildlife can change the nature of things as well. There's a lot of variables that I don't think some people maybe consider when it comes to these things. So, I think it's good for us all to be concerned about animals, their well-being, and not, getting them used to being so close to people and things of that nature. But you see this same problem, whether we want to admit it or not, in the national parks. We have bears in the national parks who are so used to people that they stay close to people to protect themselves and their cubs from other boars and other animals and things of that nature, or that's at least an ongoing theory. And, you see that with when we photograph the elk rut and deer rut sometimes, where if, especially in a park system where the animals are so habituated to people, even though it's a natural environment, the cows have no problem. The bulls have no problem coming very close to people. So is that really truly wildlife? How far do you take this conversation, and where do you draw the line, So I think everybody can have their own opinion, but I know for me too that some people might start out because they can't get around or they don't have any other way of doing it. Their first introduction is a hide, and that gets them hooked on wildlife. Well, that's not a bad thing. And maybe their journey will start to say, hey, I'm getting the same thing that everybody else is getting, like Nick said. And pretty soon they're like, I want to have my own experience. I don't want to, this hide thing isn't for me. And their experience and their opinion about it grows and changes, So I don't know. I just think sometimes we get way too excited and jumping to conclusions and judging others from those experiences, and we don't sit back and listen maybe sometimes and try to understand where they're coming from and why they're doing it. And then there's other cases it's blatantly clear, like they're baiting things in national parks and baiting owls and things like that, which I don't think any of us would be happy with or support. So anyways, that's kind of my perspective, just maybe the little nuggets I might add. But
I totally agree, and you both touched on it in the conversation thing, because I think we skip that part often. We cast judgment one way or the other, or we call out people one way or the other, without having a conversation with people that we disagree with. Because more often than not, like you say, we all care about wildlife. We're going to have 95% common ground, and yeah, using these hide experiences, as you say, as a jumping board for different experiences and for growth. Absolutely. I guess my where my problem lies is in the animal itself and it being domesticated, essentially, and it not being able to. If that guy shut his doors to that hide the next day, that animal probably wouldn't make it. And that's where my problem comes.
Yeah.
But on that topic as well, like everything, none of this is black and white. Everything's nuanced. In a world of polarization, the real world is nuanced. And where do you draw the line with baiting? Because like what's baiting? Is putting sunflower seeds out for chickadees baiting?
Right.
Because is putting your hummingbird feeder out.
Right.
And then there's other cases where if there's a roadkill deer on the road and you've got some bald eagles around, you put the carcass in your backyard because bald eagles are scavengers anyway. Is that baiting, or is that a deer that was already dead and a bald eagle that's already scavenging dead things?
Right.
So it's all very, very nuanced but it's conversations. And I think the other thing on touching on the ethics part is we all talk a lot, or I guess social media might make it louder that we're meant to be perfect. We're meant to be the most ethical. We're meant to do everything perfectly right. But it's really not that. We just need to not be bad. We all need to try to be good stewards to the wildlife and do our best to respect them. If everyone did that, there would be marked change, I'm sure.
Yeah. It's funny, real quick. I'm going to shout out another podcast but Wildlife Conversations podcast, and Jen Ritchie. They were talking in a recent episode about, sometimes you make a mistake when you're out in the field, and you self-realize it. And I think the key thing is just to recognize that and go, oh man, I probably shouldn't have been pushing that hard. I'm going to make sure I try to do better next time. Right. And when you see other people doing it, we've talked about this so many times, but not like being so harsh and not being aggressive and not calling them names and telling you, hey, you idiot, blah, blah, blah. There's a right and a wrong way to approach people to help them understand maybe there's a better way to do things, and sometimes the best thing is to not say anything. Right. And because you recognize that they realize it, so I don't know. I just think that's to your point. The conversations have to happen or nothing's going to change. And I think people learn when we have conversations. If you're open-minded and willing to have a different perspective on things, that's how we learn. You don't learn by staying in your little box and having your perspective, whether it's far right, far left, or wherever it might be, in the middle, whatever. It doesn't matter. And I'm not trying to be political. I'm just saying, opposite ends of the spectrum on something, right? And you don't want to just stay in that box. There's aspects and things that you can learn if you're willing to have those conversations and open your mind. So,
big time.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, I love to be proven wrong because it means I've learned something,
Amen. That's well said. Well, we got a lot of pro tips and little words of wisdom coming in these a couple episodes here. So,
and we're all so passionate about wildlife, right? But also to remember, we're taking pictures of these animals, and when you look at what's going on this planet, it's again, I'm not saying should be ignored or not addressed when there are things and behaviors that cross the line of ethics. They should be, but keep it in perspective with what's happening on our whole planet. I mean, there's some heavy stuff going on that's way beyond wildlife photography. And again, I don't mean that in the sense that we ignore any boundaries crossed with ethics that could be seriously detrimental to an animal, but it's just to have perspective and compassion and be kind. And I have a rule I live by, but I can't say it on this podcast. It's the golden rule: put more colorfully.
Yeah.
But it's this life is short, and we all try to do our best, and we're all learning all the time.
We're all on the same team.
Yeah, exactly. We're on the same bench here, right? And we cheer each other on, help one another, care about one another, care about the animals. And it is interesting. I mean, we have a lot of people, and there's a growing pastime. It's more accessible than ever, which is a good thing, because then people care. They become conservationists. They love the species they photograph. They tell stories with great energy about the experience they had to other people and share that. And then it just keeps moving. It keeps spreading out. It's snowball effect. It's wonderful. But in areas where there's great accessibility in some of these national parks, for instance, and the animals get to that level of habituation, there's that shared close space that requires common sense and respect. And there's a lot of people that either don't know or, it happens there. But something that, go back to last podcast with Nick, is I think for those that are physically capable, to balance that time, you have those parks where you can get those species that you may desire because of habituation, and you go do that. But also have places where you are on your own, if that's safe to do so, or with some close friends, and just have quieter experiences too. That helps balance it, because it really only takes a few steps off pavement to where that's, again, I love just being in the wilderness, and I know you guys do too. That's where it can be the smallest thing, from the chickadee you're talking about to Nick that you mentioned, to who knows what, a moose, whatever, a wolf. I mean, you never know what you'll discover. But balancing that with some quieter time on your own, or just with another person or two in wilder spaces, if that's possible, is what I love to do. But yeah, this is a great subject. It's not, we just started talking about between episodes. It's not the content that was the initiation for the second episode. So should we pivot to that? I mean, the summary is, obviously Beyond the Wild podcast does not support baiting, does not support doing things that will stress an animal, will impact in a negative way its ability to survive. Any of that line being crossed, we do not support. We do interact with animals. That's taking pictures right there. And here's another hot button, very short segue is, we're animals. We're mammals that live on this planet. We live in these shelters that we build, and these communities and these cities that have become what they are. But we're here too. And so it's a matter of for those that care about conservation of natural spaces, is how that interaction takes place. And I think, I know that we and our audience, care about that, care about nature in that way, but we're part of it, right? In this fact that, we live and breathe, exist, born and die on planet Earth, just like the monarch butterfly, just like the blue whale. I mean, amazing spectrums there, right? So admiring these species with grace and in a way that we photograph them, collecting memories. And part of that, think about it too, is, those memories are something that people enjoy to have for themselves, but it's also a way we get to share our enthusiasm and create more education and love of these species. And that's where, we all think about, Jason's doing it with the youth group in the spring. How do we do that? How do we take our love and passion that drove us to spend the energy, money, time to collect these images? What do we do with them that improves the life of these animals? If there's a way to do it, think about that. So there's a couple of things on this podcast I'd like to touch on with Nick, because getting to know him has been so much fun, and this leads into something. What do you do with those pictures? Well, Nick is doing something that at this point in time, there may be other people doing it, but I don't know anybody personally who is starting up a wildlife photography photo club for people, get this, to meet in person.
What?
Rare stuff, eh?
So bold.
Like on
So
purpose.
Yeah. We actually have to talk to one another. Oh,
No phone? You don't get to get in a room and text each other?
no.
The first meeting a couple of nights ago, but Nick did all this. He's like, and so, yeah, Take us there with the thought process. What's happening, man?
Yeah, so we've got a great area here where we are for wildlife. We're really fortunate that we've got some great provincial parks nearby. We're on the Great Lakes, so like that provides some really unique wildlife just because of the ecosystem that we have. We've got a pretty good local community of wildlife photographers around as individuals, but it's not really much of a community at the moment. Um, so for me, like I thought that's a great opportunity to bring people together and chit chat about wildlife photography. I'm not a big like rules club guy. I'm hoping to just facilitate this and let sort of all the members run it and take it where they want it to go and get out of it what they want. But I just want to foster a community where we can all learn from one another and grow together and make one another better wildlife photographers. Because I said it the other night at our first meeting, I guarantee that every single person there does something better than the rest of us. And if we can all bring that one best thing to the table, we're all going to become much better photographers a lot quicker, and be able to do that together and share the experiences and share the wins and get honest opinions when we're not. Yeah, a rising tide raises all ships. I think I said that, and I messed that up the other night, and I think I messed it up this time again. But it's something along those lines. But yeah, and get honest feedback when, hey, this image is not up to snuff. I might come in saying, oh, this thing's awesome, like look at this, blah blah blah, but I need other photographers who are better than me to tell me, no, like look at what you did here, why did you compose this like that, like you're better than this, be better. And I will be, and that's how we improve, and we'll be able to, yeah, just grow with one another, bring experiences to one another, because there's going to be critters that each of us are better at too. And if we build relationships in person, then we can share those experiences with others. And it's good. And it gets us away from the online, always comparing ourselves to people's photos halfway across the world. Like we're all here. Let's be together. And you get more honesty out of people that way. And you get just a better, more positive experience. So I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to see where it goes. We had a pretty good turnout, and I'm hoping, I think there's another dozen or so people that wanted to make it and couldn't because of the weather or what have you. But yeah, it's exciting, and I'm not sure where it's going to go, but I'm sure it's going to go somewhere good.
It's great that you're doing it though and trying, and tell people out there. I mean, if in their region, the steps you took, like how straightforward and simple was it? Like the town hall that you rented, like those kind of things.
Oh yeah, it was dead easy, honestly. It takes time and work, but yeah, contacted the city. They have a building that they rent out to community things like this that was really affordable. Liability insurance, really affordable. Like it's going to shake out to we're going to meet 12 times a year, once a month, and it's going to cost everyone maybe $20, $25. And yeah, and then I just started, any local wildlife photographer I knew, I reached out online and basically started yelling and told them to yell to all the wildlife photographers they knew. We've got a couple local Facebook groups for the provincial parks, made some posts in there, and yeah, the word got out pretty quick. And then like with your youth camp, that's so inspiring, and that's something that I really in the future want to take a hold of, because it's not, and part of it is time and accessibility and financials, but this wildlife photography thing isn't a young person's game. But if we don't help the next generation come up through and teach them about the ethics and about the whys and the passion behind it, especially in a world where so many young people are getting into it and it's all about the likes. That shouldn't be your why. Like you can't compel me any reason that that's your why. Like your why should be like deep in you, and it should be the fire that you get and the rush when you have a really awesome encounter. And like if we can help instill that into the next generation, that would be such a cool thing for me.
Yeah, that's well said. I'm excited that you're doing this. I wish I was really hoping to be there in person for that first meeting. That would have been really fun. And I'm sure that the energy was great. And because I know that if somebody would start one around here, they've come and gone around here, and there may be one that I haven't been made aware of, but I would totally participate when I could. I think that's good to be, networking amongst local photographers and that. And you're right. I've mentioned this before on the podcast too, so everybody's probably going to hang up now or click the stop button. But the wisdom I got from a professor early on in my college career, my first class I took in college was, you can learn something from everybody, and that really stuck. It's such a simple thing, and we all know it, but I really took it to heart, and I really tried to apply that, and I've tried to apply it my entire life. And sometimes, back to the ethics thing and some of those things and baiting that, it's learning what not to do. Right. But you can learn something from everybody if you have an open mind. And it doesn't matter how experienced a photographer is and how many years they have under their belt. If you're open, that younger 1 year in photographer can teach you things you didn't know and that you could utilize. So, I think it's important to have that perspective on things. And if you go into a camera club like that, a photography club with that mindset, everybody in that club is going to just have an incredible experience. So that's cool that you're doing.
Thanks. And that's another thing that I didn't touch on is that we've got actually a number, because our area, it's a sort of an art and culture hub. So tons of art galleries. We're a wine region as well. So there's plenty of photography clubs around, but they're all general photography clubs. Mm. And I don't know about you guys, but I care about one thing.
Yeah.
So that's sort of why I keyed in on, okay, this is a wildlife photography club. And someone asked, they said, well, are you allowed, are we going to be allowed to bring landscape images? And I'm like, not if there's not an animal in it. Like, it's wildlife only.
I love it.
but it'll help us be more pointed as well and more focused on growth and bettering our wildlife skills without straying off into too many other things.
Right. That's cool.
So much sorry, Jason.
No, you're fine.
So much to learn about wildlife photography.
Really, a lifetime's worth.
Right.
Many lifetimes worth.
Exactly. So yeah, charismatic megafauna to macro insects, right? To birds. It's to close-up portraits to environmental settings. And I think the cohesiveness of the group, at least at that first meeting, seemed excited about that because, you eloquently pointed out. We all love photography. It intrigues us. The mechanics of the camera tool is pretty amazing on its own, right? But if you're at a club meeting and somebody goes into some other element of photography that isn't about wildlife and nature for half an hour, and if that's not why you're there, then it's it takes up some time. Whereas this is clearly about animals, birds, fish, macro, wildlife, bugs, but it's very, very cool. I think that way. I'm interested and keen to see where it goes, but I just wanted to highlight the initiative you've taken to do this, and the great turnout, and the facility you set up. Everything was wonderful, and I think you should charge a little more per year just to have a little buffer in there. Not a lot, because you don't want to dissuade people, but even $40, I don't know, but yeah, who knows how it'll pan out. 2025, maybe it'll be enough. I don't know. I guess it depends, like you said, on the number of people too.
Yeah, I haven't crunched the numbers yet. And then as well, I've got to look at bringing in guest speakers and stuff, whether we're going to have people just pay the cost for that on that night or build that into the membership. I've got to figure that all out still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know a guy, Mark. He's kind of expensive, but I'm sure.
You'll drain your club coffers for the year.
Well, you can't charge me mileage because I know where you live.
Yeah.
You're not
I love sharing stories and talking and hoping. I mean, it's the whole premise of aside from community and friendships, the premise of the podcast is to spark excitement into planet Earth, right? Through a lens.
It's amazing. And there's, like you say, endless lifetimes. Even in our little circle here, I live in town and I have a coyote walk by every so often. And I worked for the past 6 months sitting in the swamp in front of my house trying to photograph a little kingfisher that I've just become obsessed with. And
it's beautiful.
Lots of long mornings in the mud, but it's and that's just one. And you can spend a little time on so many things or a lot of time on a few things. There's unlimited amounts out there. It's incredible stuff.
That's true, right? From the generalist approach to the niche of certain types of species. Yeah, that's well put too. Got to remember that. There's yeah. So going beyond the club, there's something else. When you came back to Canada from the UK, you're obviously spending a lot of time in the field with photography, but you have certain days a week that you're doing something else. What's that?
Yeah, so gotta have a day job. Wish I could take photography.
Well, this is tied directly to it.
No, it is tied. You know what? Like I'm so lucky because I get to work with artists and photographers all day long. So I've got a print and frame shop here locally where we do fine art printing for artists and photographers. So I actually didn't know till I started to delve into it. But when you buy prints of, say, a painter's art, they have to get said piece of art on the computer. So I photograph the art, make sure it's color correct. And like I say, we're in an art hub, so there's tons of artists around that I get to work with, do some pretty awesome stuff. So yeah, get a high resolution image, make sure it's color correct, and then pick the right kind of paper and then do the prints for them. So that's the artist side, and it's amazing. Like we've got tons of different papers, ones that resemble watercolor for painters that do that. It's really fun stuff. But then on the photography side, I do all the giclée prints for tons of photographers. So it's amazing because that gets me close to the community as well. And I get to see amazing photos all day long. So it's been great. I get to print and frame stuff all day long. Some stuff local, some stuff we mail out all over Canada. Work with some artists and photographers that are even far away. They just send in the images and we work on them, give them our care, and make sure it's right before we hit print. And send it off to their clients all over. And I'm trying to branch out to the network I have and say to like our American friends and photographers that if they ever sell to clients in Canada, we can print for them, save them the duty and the tariffs and all that. So start to do a little bit of that too, which is cool. Getting into the metal and the acrylic printing, which is all sort of alien to me, but it's new, it's exciting, and it's awesome. It's not always wildlife, but it's always art and photos and images, and getting to work with photographers, especially ones that have never printed their stuff before, and they get their favorite photo printed for the first time or done on a big canvas or something. You guys know, like it's just different than on a screen.
Yeah.
It's the way you're meant to look at images.
Agreed. Yeah, and I've been intentionally printing more stuff as of late too. But that's actually a really good little nugget for our listeners too, and folks that might be selling prints to folks in Canada that live in the States, because I didn't know that. I didn't think about that. That's a great option for us to avoid some of those heavy sales and or tariffs and duties and shipping costs. So I like that. It's a good little nugget to know. I'm gonna have to get the name. Matter of fact, why don't you just mention the name of the shop if you don't mind?
Yeah, thanks. So it's Quenty Photo Services in Trenton, and yeah, we're just a little outfit, but our printers are just as good as the big guys, and we have 17 different papers that we use, and we really pride ourselves in taking an image and talking to the artist and picking the right medium or the right paper for it, and making sure we get the image right. Like we care, we're
Right.
we're not just getting the image in our inbox and hitting print and shipping it out. Like we make sure it's right and we make sure it's good and like it's our own.
So you guys are literally doing color correcting and all that kind of stuff too to make sure that it matches the file and all those things.
Big time, yeah. And then we'll say stuff like, depending on the medium or depending on the image, sometimes, I'm sure you guys have noticed, sometimes, and just by nature, paper isn't backlit like a screen is. So sometimes it'll end up darker than you think it's going to be.
Yep.
So if it's a particularly dark image too, we might brighten it up a bit and just let the artist know, hey, we did this, hope it's all right, but it's going to turn out better. Or if there's like a piece of dust, a dust on the sensor that you might not have seen when you edited the image, but it's going to show up on the print, we'll fix that. So just little stuff like that we're small, it's just the two of us, but we care, and we're photographers too.
Right. That personal touch is a big deal, though. I mean, there's a lot of print shops where I would make sure I'm not choosing the color correct option because I know it's just going to be an auto thing, and then I'm not sure my colors are going to be the way I would expect them. But I always use print shops that have manual, have a technician like yourself looking at them to make sure that, like you said, the brightness is right and everything, so that the print is going to look like the file when it's in the finished state.
Absolutely, right? Yeah. So that it's going to reflect the image.
Right. That's a big deal. So that's really cool. It's just a small shop, but that personal touch is a big deal in my opinion. So anybody up there that's not using you guys should be. And I mean, if I ever get a sales from a Canadian customer, I will be reaching out to you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So is there a website? Is it just simply the name is the website?
Yeah, so it's quentyphotoservices.com.
Okay.
And then there's also,
sorry, one more time. Say the name one more time.
Quenty Photo Services.
Spell that real quick.
QUINTE.
Okay, perfect.
And then also, I mentioned my website before. There's a link to our website through mine as well.
Nice.
Give yours again. That might have been the last podcast.
Right. It's thethickofitphotography.com.
The Thick of It.
That's right.
The Thick of It Photography. So I think it's awesome that following the process. We all love our portfolios, looking at them digitally, but printing them is a different experience. And the favorite images, honestly, if the means are there, should be coveted that way. But the fact that you go from being an all-in kind of photographer and going hard at your adventures and seeking out images and surprises to the point of perfecting printing skills, that's a wonderful skill set to go from creation to being, talented at working together with these systems so that the end printed product matches. That's great.
It's been a dream, honestly, to have what you do for work be anything to do with what you love is awesome. But I'll tell you, owning a printer is a dangerous game because your walls get full quick.
the learning process, right? You get to do it all with
That's
your.
right. It's all practice. It's you need to do it.
Yeah,
That's
right.
yeah. I could see that. I could see that being a fun part of it.
You just need to have them offer up a few for sale every now and then, so you can keep rotating them out, right? So
That's right.
So, is there anything else that we should cover in part two? The van build's super cool. I mean, but that's a whole other subject. But it's cool. I mean, Nick's okay. So this is an interesting thing. Talk just quickly. It's how you summarize it. But you've got this van build going on for a very specific purpose. But you've talked about on a couple of occasions. You know, it's good to have a variety of passions and hobbies, but
Oh yeah. So I'm tapped out. I've got a 3 hobby limit. Like I say, I've got 2 speeds on or off, and they I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. Is when you're really passionate about things and you get a few things that you're really passionate about, they will start to erode one another, and it becomes like it's a stress point for me, honestly, because if I'm out doing one thing and I could be doing another, it makes you a bit anxious, you know. But it's a good problem to have because it's things that we love and it's options that we have. So it's a blessed situation to be in. But yeah, no, I've cut myself off to hobbies because I'm finding they're fighting with one another too much. So I'm done now. I have my hobbies and that's it.
but it's a conscious choice. There's some wisdom to recognizing the parameters. If you're invested in a hobby and want to grow it and excel, then time is a big parameter. And I think there's wisdom in how you're describing it to get the most out of it and not stress about other things, is to only have so many hobbies that at that point in time are being pursued. So, and I mean, it may sound funny, but not all hobbies are cheap, right? Photographers. So
No, and I don't know about you guys, but the other ones I pick are also not cheap. So
I was going to
it's
say I don't know of very many hobbies that are cheap. I'd like to hear if you know of any. So yeah.
and like you say, when they do get to the point when they're starting to compete, the quality is going to fall away, and that's not what you want. So you do have to make those conscious decisions and weigh out your time and decide what's most important to you.
what feeds you? Yeah, awesome. And then in closing, then this project. Sorry, it's not a hobby; it's a project. Ties into wildlife and nature photography adventure that you've got yourself a van or sorry, it's a cube van that you're going to retrofit for weeks in the field at a time, so you can travel long distances, you and Nadine, and explore and photograph places, right?
Yeah, so we bought just an empty box truck, sort of like a delivery truck, you know, and going slower than expected, but going. Um,
It's winter.
Retrofitting it. Yeah, no projects on time. Wouldn't be a good project if it was. Um, yeah,
Or
retrofitting
budget.
it so that we're totally self sufficient, off grid. Um, Camper will be able to really, with the electricity capacity it's going to have and how we generate, we'll have electricity essentially in perpetuity. Um, Water, fresh water, and gasoline for the engine in the vehicle will be the limiters for how far we can go in restocking food. But yeah, we've set ourselves up really nicely with the career that I picked coming back, and with Nadine. Um, Thankfully, she's got a career where she can sort of make some requests and have those granted because of how sought after she is, an experienced vet. That we get a lot of time off every year so that we can do long form travel, because this long time in Scotland sort of gave me the bug that I don't just want to visit places. And obviously some places you can just visit, but I want to visit for as long as possible and get as deep as possible. So yeah, we're going to take 8 to 10 weeks a year and just go. This fall is going to be our first one to Newfoundland. Nadine's, that's right, hanging out with Mark, going to see some caribou. And Nadine's half of her family's all there, so get to meet a lot of her family, and really see the Rock. Spend a good chunk of time there and see as much as we can. But then, yeah, going forward every year, we want to go somewhere and really get deep into the wildlife. Then next summer, it'll be 10 weeks in Alaska. And then, yeah, every year somewhere different. But I'm really looking forward to the wildlife experiences that'll come out of it, because we want to go to some pretty cool, remote, faraway places. See what the world gets to show us there.
Well, I'm jealous, especially at your age. What'd you say, 23, 24?
Starts with a different number.
Yeah. No, but to be that focused on that kind of stuff right now in your life is awesome. I mean, I don't think very many, not a whole bunch of people have been able to put themselves in that situation that early in life, right? And B, to be able to do it with your jobs and the choices and stuff, like you said, it sounds like you've set yourself up pretty good. And those are going to be some incredible adventures. I'm jealous. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny because went to Scotland, and before there, I had all these I'd love to go to this country to photograph this animal, and this country for this animal. But being away and now coming back, I'm just so obsessed with all that North America has to offer. I have no sort of want to go anywhere else. I just want to soak up as much as I can here. And you could spend lifetimes traveling North America and not see a fraction of it,
Yep.
So, yeah, looking forward to just sinking my teeth in, getting out of it as much as I can.
Yeah. Well, we all can relate to this, I'm sure. But, I mention this to people all the time. I live in Utah. I've lived in Utah my entire life. There are things in Utah that I still haven't seen that I want to see. And that's just in our state. So yeah, I mean, you literally could spend a lifetime traveling your area, your local country, whatever, and never visit anywhere else and still not see everything you want to see. So I think it's important to prioritize what are the things you do want to focus on, right? And sounds like you guys have a cool plan. I'm assuming at some point you'll visit the Mountain West out here, and when you do, you'll have to hit me up. I can probably help you out with a few things. So.
Yeah.
Even
awesome.
Just a fuel and water stop. So
certainly will stop. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be an amazing way to see things, and what you see en route too, right? If time permits, you've built this device that keeps you comfortable, keeps you mobile. You can audible, you can go do something else if you hear or think of something. It's not as restrictive as flying if you can afford the travel time, and it's not as expensive because you're self-contained eventually once it's made. And I would think, but it's there's still the fuel getting there, but flights aren't cheap, and rental cars aren't cheap, and accommodations aren't cheap. So when you piece all that together, it's a way that many people prefer to travel if they have the time to do so, because it gives you that flexibility too, right? Magic's happening, or you hear of something else, it's going to take 5 more days. Maybe you can fit it in or change plans right there. So very exciting. Yeah.
And road tripping is just awesome. I don't care what anybody says. I love road tripping. I mean, I love driving and road tripping and seeing country, so.
Yeah. How many things have you been on a long road trip, and even if it's just something silly like a little diner where you had the best burger of your life,
Right.
Like those things you just miss if you fly.
Right. Yep. And all the people you meet, and you could go on and on for sure. So.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, not to put any pressure on you, Nick, but there are some very successful YouTube channels about that kind of stuff.
No, thank you. This is the most video you're ever going to see of me.
Is it?
This is my lifetime fill.
Oh, we got it. Oh, well, we're lucky then. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for doing it for with Beyond the Wild and for all our listeners, and much appreciated. And yeah, it's been fun. Is there anything else before we sign off for now? And we didn't touch on England. We can do that someday, but we'll have to let the buffer come back about the time on video, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to reset. I'm going to be out for a while. No, I think we covered it all. It was a great chat.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to chatting with you soon about other things. Maybe we can figure out an adventure to do together. I know you've proposed a bunch, and I'm looking forward to getting in the field with you and having some fun and to seeing where the club goes to. And will there be there will be, right, a Facebook page? I mean, if people are interested, is it something to put out there for the Wildlife Photography Club part? I mean, obviously people who are listening that are local to this region, then awesome. But is there anything social wise that way that's going to develop? Or, I mean, the whole important premise is meeting in person, really. But
yeah, I'm not sure if there'd be anything relevant to people outside the area, but anyone in the area. It's called Wild Focus Quinte. Yeah, and we've got a Facebook page and Instagram, but now it's just sort of been, hey, come to our first meeting. So it'll get more interesting from here on out, but certainly probably most interesting for locals. Yeah.
Oh, that's the point, right? That's something to think about for everybody out there. For those that know there's a community around, that it could be an opportunity to get to know like-minded people and develop friendships, which, is important in our life. So, well, thanks, Nick. It's been awesome. Thank you for sharing your insights, your perspectives. I love the discussions we've had and also hearing about the places you've explored. And I know we just kind of touched on it when it came to your time in the UK, and look forward to seeing where you go with stuff here. Follow along on social media for those that aren't in the proximity. So a quick and very important shout out to our sponsors, pictureline.com and Canon USA. Without them, this podcast wouldn't be produced to the excellent level it is with our producer, JG. And if you, of course, as said before, if you're ever looking for anything photography, camera gear related, reach out to Colin at Pictureline. Tell him you're coming from Beyond the Wild podcast. And we have, there's things developing there too, which are quite interesting that we may get to share in the near future. And there's some other things about Beyond the Wild podcast that we'll be sharing in the very near future too, as well as some excellent episodes and guests coming up, just like tonight with Nick. So stay tuned for that. And thank you for your support. And like I said earlier, if you have comments on any of the discussions tonight, feel free to add them at YouTube. We do read and look at all of them and reply. So thank you for that. And you can find more on our website as well at beyondthewildpodcast.com. Until next week, wishing you all the best. Thanks, Jason. Rod, we'll see you soon, buddy. And online, of course. In person would be better. One of these days, guys, we'll get back together. But this is still fun. It's about community. It's about keeping in touch with one another, sharing information, and the passion of what we do in the wild. Take care, everybody. See you next week. And that's a wrap for another episode of Beyond the Wild podcast. We'd like to thank our sponsors, pictureline.com, your online source for everything photography, and Canon USA.